What is going on? Nieces and nephews. I know. Another video. What the hell? What the hell? Well, you know, I got my bike. I can make videos. So today's video is about listening to people that are smarter than me, especially if the tuner of your bike tells you to do something, then you should probably do it. Or any, mechanic that's working on your bike or something regarding your bike, they tell you to do something, you should probably do it. So I am not too big to admit when I mess up. I've made a boo-boo, and I made one. So after my tune, I've had my tune for a couple of weeks now, so I've kind of had some time with it, and there was a couple of things that concerned me. Wasn't necessarily disappointed, just wasn't quite what I was expecting. So what the issue was is when I would be in the middle of the RPM range and I would go wide open throttle, the bike would kind of bog. So you see on that, when I twist the throttle, it responded immediately, and also when I shifted while wide open throttle, it also responded immediately and didn't bog down after the shift. So what was happening was, what I felt was happening, and what I explained to the tuner, Nate, at Two Wheel Dyno Works. And what I explained to him was that, when I go wide open throttle, I can hear the intake. I can hear it sucking in air. I can hear the velocity stacks. I can hear the air box. I can hear it sucking in the air, but it just was hesitating. It wasn't doing anything for, a second or whatever the case may have been. And so I asked him, what I actually asked him was, is it possible to have too much air because of the airbox mod? I felt that maybe I was pulling in too much air compared to the fuel that was being provided. So I emailed Nate, and of course, Nate, being the awesome dude that he is, responded back immediately. And his first and only question back to me in the email was, Do you have your baffle installed? The DB killer. Well, after the headache I had with buying the Artevive headers and them not fitting, and then ruining my original Graves mid-pipe, trying to stretch it to fit, and then buying several other mid-pipes from various places and running around to local muffler shops and not being able to find a solution until I ended up just buying the Graves headers and a new Graves mid-pipe from them. In all of that, I forgot to reinstall the baffle on my slip-on, because I was running without it when it was just the slip-on, because Nate advised that if I want any type of performance gains with just the slip-on, I need to run it baffleless. So I did. And I do believe he probably told me at least twice in emails to make sure that I put the baffle in it. And just in the mess of things, it's just something I overlooked. And so I ran the baffleless for a couple hundred miles, and you know, it wasn't performing horrible, right? It was still great. It just, when I went wide open throttle in some situations, it just didn't react the way that I was expecting. And so now that I've made that change, I also am acutely aware that these, you know, when people say, tuners say, especially Nate, because he's said it quite a bit, when tuners say that these little bikes like the 500 need some back pressure to perform properly, I totally get it now. And I'm going out to some roads and I'll kind of show you here. But before, you know, if I was in the middle of second, middle of third, middle of fourth, and I went wide open throttle, it wouldn't react right away. It would kind of lag, suck in air until enough fuel got, and then it would finally take off. And basically it's because I was running lean. You know, while I'm wide open throttle doing that, I'm running lean. I've got too much air. The exhaust gases are exiting too quickly, and so there's no back pressure, and the exhaust isn't able to scavenge anything that it needs. And so I was running into some kind of laggy issues, right? And the biggest concern for me that I noticed is, like, when I would be in wide open throttle and go to shift at wide open throttle, it would kind of bog instead of just kind of smoothly continue on in the power band. And that is actually a bit dangerous, you know, if I'm trying to, let's say, pass a car and I'm at wide open throttle and I go to shift and then it bogs and it's just not behaving the way that I expect it to. You know, that could be a dangerous situation. So, you know, when the tuner, if you could ever get your bike tuned and the tuner tells you to do something, they're probably not just telling you to ruin your day. Right? So we'll get out to some of these roads here, and I can also show you that I don't just roll around in city streets. I actually prefer not to be in the city streets. So what, we're about 6,000 RPM, and before, get around this corner, before, if I would hit wide open throttle from here, you'd hear the intake, hear that nice sucking of air into the intake, but it just wouldn't do nothing. So now if we now it pulls. And so I guess that also does change my when I was first talking about this tune a couple videos ago, I said, you know, it doesn't pull a whole lot harder. Well, now I know why. What the fuck? Dude. See, you guys got to pay attention. What was I saying? Oh, I know why I wasn't pulling nearly as good as it is now. It's because I made a boo-boo and didn't put the baffle back in, and so the back pressure wasn't there that the bike needed. And so now it pulls, you know, it still doesn't pull a whole lot more, but it's definitely more, and it's just like, whoa. See, it still does it a little bit, just because I think it's such a small CC bike. But overall, it definitely pulls a lot better. A lot better. Man, my bike is filthy. I don't want to do too much ripping around, because this is, you know, there's houses around, there's a lot of driveways and places to pop out of, so you got to be careful, but you can have a little bit of fun. It's definitely peppy. Ooh, I got a new windscreen coming. I've decided I don't like the double bubble. From the side, it just kind of messes up the lines of the bike. And also, I think it's a little too dark. You can see through it, but it's pretty tough, and it's got to be a clear day. Not that I can really get down there, but so I'm getting a Pouge one. I'm gonna get a Pouge, their Z Racing Dark Smoke. It's the taller windscreen, but it just doesn't have the double bubble part here, so I think it'll look a lot better. Plus, I finally took the Artevive headers back. I was trying to sell them. No luck there, so I ended up just returning them back to Revzilla. Just be done with it. And then ended up taking my credit, part of my credits, and getting that new windscreen. So yeah, now I get that, you know, removing the baffle on these things. Even though it sounds a lot better, even if it's just the slip-on, well, I guess not so much the slip-on, because Nate said it would be okay, but at least with the full exhaust, by not having your baffle in, you're, at least on my particular exhaust, I suppose, it might be different on other slip-ons, but at least with the Graves, you know, it was definitely causing some air-fuel ratio issues and performance issues. So I'm glad I emailed him. Look, I know it's just a 500. And I know it doesn't have a whole lot of torque. And I know it don't have a whole lot of speed. I know it don't have a whole lot of power. But, man, that's still fun as fuck. Or, I'm sorry, that's still fun as hell. Getting off like that. Especially when the bike hasn't ever performed like that before. So it's, you know, it's taking the bike that you've learned on, that I've learned on, right? And know how it's supposed to act, and it now acts a whole different way. It's fun. So yeah, even better on the tune now that I, you know, did what my tuner said to do. So yeah, but I didn't really have much else. I just trying to be a little bit more consistent with videos. Figured I'd drop that little gem, show you a little bit. Might include some footage here as I smash around, see if this Mercedes ever gets out of the way up at this roundabout coming up. We'll see. If not, I want y'all to ride safe, head on swivel. Like I said, there's been a lot of motorcycle deaths in my area this season, so be safe.